What's going on, Forward fam? Forward Favor Man back again with first time you realize America really messed you up. Now we're doing part 6, man. We're gonna go ahead and hop right into the video. Be sure to check out the interesting stuff playlist, which is a whole combination of various forms of random content. But hey, let's get into the video.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really messed you up?
I got one. I moved to Italy about a month ago, and my roommate
Viva Italia!
And we were talking about things to do outside since the weather was getting nicer, like rent bikes, take walks. And she said we should have a shooting. And I said, a what? She said, a shooting. Like, let's go have a shooting. And I was like, and she was like, yeah, like, let's go get dressed up and take some cute pictures by, like, the canals or something. Pictures.
In the US, I could not let my 11-year-old son go outside and play by himself. Someone would call the cops or something would legitimately happen to him, and so there was no way. And when I moved to Germany, my husband, who's a German national, suggested that he go outside and play by himself. Because we would not have to worry.
I'm not living abroad.
So you would not have to worry. First you said because somebody would call the cops. So it made me think of like just the typical Karen, right? The Karen that exists. It's just like, gonna call the police on you for any little thing. The noise was a little bit too loud. Well, damn. Oh, we see a random kid walking around the neighborhood. His parents must have lost him to that extent. But then you talk about, well, nothing's gonna happen to him.
Anymore, but I was from 2010 to 2011. I was living in Uppsala, Sweden, which is like about 45 minutes north of Stockholm. And this was before any major civil unrest was happening in the country or Trump or anything. This was like
baby.
10 years ago. I was out with friends and we started talking about how this Swedish girl happened to have cancer and how it's completely taken care of by their government. All of her health care, all of her bills are paid for. The odds are that she will definitely get over cancer. So I go up to my two friends, one from Australia, one from Canada, and I say, oh my God, you guys, did you hear? She has cancer and the government's completely taking care of all of her bills. Isn't that amazing? Like, oh my God. And then my friends replied, Sabrin, you realize that you are the weird ones. Americans are the only ones that don't have that program. That was the first of many moments where I was embarrassed to be an American.
It's not current, but when I was studying in the UK, one day I really needed to see a doctor. But I didn't know how to access care. I didn't know what my insurance situation was like, so I just went to work. And eventually I was in so much pain that I burst into tears and my boss pulled me aside. And he was like, what's up? And I was like, I really need to see a doctor, but I don't know how to access care here. I don't know if I can afford it. And he was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Go down the street to the hospital. And I argued with him. And he was like, no, just trust me. Just
Did
go
he
to the
fire
hospital.
you?
So I went and I was like clutching my like student ID in my hand, my passport. And I was like trying to remember how much I had in my bank account, like checking. And I got called back to the doctor. He was like, yep, this is what's wrong with you. Pick up your prescription on the way out. And I was like, I'm sorry, do you know how much it's going to be? And he said, I don't know, maybe 8 pounds. I was like, I'm sorry, 8? He was like, yeah, I don't think it's ever more than that. The receptionist kept laughing at me because I didn't feel comfortable leaving without paying somebody. And I kept asking and asking if I owed anybody any money.
We'll send
So
a
I
bill
don't
to
live in
your
Europe.
house.
I was visiting
Don't worry
relatives
about
in the
it.
UK a couple of years ago, and my inhaler got destroyed. They convinced me to talk to the pharmacist first before seeing a doctor, in case I didn't need to. And the pharmacist said, yes, of course, we can refill this for you. No problem. It's a life-saving medication. And I'm like, great. And the pharmacist says, I did want to warn you, though. I'm very sorry. The price has gone up. And I'm just thinking the worst. And he says, yes, I'm very sorry. It's going to be £8.80. I said, £8.80. And he said, yeah, it's going to be £8.80. I'm really sorry. The prices just keep going
Bruh
up.
said, I'm really sorry.
That is when I realized that the U.S. health insurance system is well and truly because that £8.80
Okay.
prescription in the U.K. with really good health insurance costs me $50 per inhaler in the United States for a medication I need to literally live. So, yeah.
Buckle up, kids. This one's gonna hurt. So I just moved to Italy with my boyfriend who is Italian. Going through all of his old paperwork today, and he showed me a bill from the hospital when he cut his hand open pretty badly and had to get stitches. It cost €4, which is the equivalent of $4.50. I am back for round 2 on this one. So I just moved to Italy with my boyfriend who is Italian. We're watching a movie the other day where somebody is running away and they get shot. And I'm like, you know what? That's their fault. They didn't run in a zigzag. That's like the first thing they teach you, to run in a zigzag if somebody's pointing a gun at you. He pauses the movie and he looks at me and he goes, who taught you that? And I'm like, you know, like teachers, adults, parents, like they teach you when you're young to run in a zigzag if somebody is pointing a gun.
It's common sense, bro. We're from America. You know, what we adapt to is way different. So I kind of baffles me how some folks be like, well, who taught you that? Bro, I'm American. You thought it ain't the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is our everyday life.
At you. The sinking feeling I had when I realized that nobody ever had to teach them that.
But imagine, like, maybe y'all, I mean, God forbid y'all never in this situation, but you got a girl who knows how to stay privy in situations like that. She know what to do. You're a dumbass for just running a straight line and get shot in the back, you know?
I was young. Because that's not a problem here.
So another
Until
thing
it
that
is
I
a
think
problem.
about a lot is I have German friends, Dutch friends, Polish friends, and they all went on class trips to concentration camps when they were like 8 years old. Whereas in the US, I never learned anything about the Native Americans, like what really happened, until I took a Native American Studies class in college.
That's what I'm saying. Videos I've reacted to prior always, like, that's the whole emphasis I'm talking about, bro. Natural origins of history related to the actuality of what America was prior to the Europeans coming in. Let's get rid of all that. Let's wipe it all away. You know what I'm saying? You live in a facade and you don't even know it.
Are sitting there learning about, and they like use the word genocide. They tell them we committed genocide against the Jews here in Europe. And in the US, they're like, natives helped us move onto their land and they just kind of moved away so we could settle. And they don't teach us anything about the Dawes Act. They don't teach us anything about the Stolen Sisters. They don't teach us anything about how Columbus wiped out an entire island in the Caribbean. And like, they don't teach us about the smallpox blankets and the cholera and everything at all.
So I'm from Chicago and I moved here when I was like 14. And I've been in public school ever since I moved here. And I remember this one time I was with my friends, and this was probably like the first 6 months of my first year at school here. And I was just like, we haven't had an intruder drill yet. Like, when are we going to have one of those? And they were just like, what is an intruder drill? What is that? And I had to like explain, like, you know, it's like you're practicing in case someone comes into school to come like shoot or something. And they're just like, we do not do that here. There is no threat of people coming to kill us. And then I was like, oh yeah, I don't have to be like scared for my life at school in this country. Forgot about that.
I was living abroad in the UK and I had a job interview. And of course, growing up in the US, you're conditioned to dress so professional, be prepared, have your resume and all these things. So I was like that really much. And I remember walking into the interview and they were like, oh, well, you look really snazzy. And I was like, okay, that first of all, I've never heard that before in an interview. Then secondly, they didn't even ask me anything besides, hey, Kyle, would you like a cup of tea? And I was like, okay. Never was asked that before ever in any other job interviews. We had a tea and we literally like sat and talked about all sorts of stuff, personal life, their life, and we just had a laugh for like...
You already got the job, bro. They already knew they was going to hire you when you came in. I remember going to interviews in the UK. Now, they offered me no tea. Maybe they did. I don't remember. But, man, I would attest, like, I would agree, like, you don't got to be suited and booted. Of course, I wore me a little polo and stuff, feel me? Like, had my shirt tucked in, you know what I mean? And they still gave me the job. Interview was a breeze. Asked the simplest questions. I don't even think I had a resume, bro. I think I did. I think I sent it to him, but I didn't come with it printed off. I mean, who does that anymore? Anyways, never mind.
45 minutes.
Never mind, y'all.
And right afterwards, they're like, you're perfect for the job. You fit great. And it was really crazy to me, and it was a really fun experience. I wish the U.S. would just chill out sometimes.
Got a boy.
All right, so when I lived in France, I went to a cafe with my friend, and outside the cafe, there were a whole bunch of baby strollers with human babies inside of the strollers, and I was super freaked out, and I asked my friend, why would anybody leave their babies outside unattended in their strollers? Aren't you afraid of something happening to them? And my friend looked at me and said, why would you assume that anything would happen to a baby? Who would be so horrible to do something?
But that's just stupidity, bro. I don't care where I'm at. I'm not leaving my kid in a stroller outside. Like, what are you doing in the meantime? Like, I don't care. I'm not leaving my son, my daughter, my infant in a stroller while I go shop. Just because y'all's society is lax. Oh, well, nothing happens here. Why would anything happen to a baby? Those are the same comments the dumbasses that leave their doors open at night and then somebody walks in. Well, we live in a good neighborhood. Nothing ever is going to happen. Wait, man, shut up, man. Stupid, bro.
Something to a baby. Yeah.
That's not valid.
I
That's
live
just
in
not.
Warsaw, Poland now, but I always stay in touch with what's happening in the U.S. And I happened to hear about that Las Vegas shooting when someone opened fire on a bunch of concert goers. And it was very tragic news. But that day, I also went to the movies. So I was already in a kind of weird mental state. And when I left the movies, I got on the tram again in Warsaw, and I saw this guy kind of being sketchy and acting weird in the last seat. And I kept eyeing him the whole time, and he had his jacket open and he was holding something inside. He was hiding it. And I thought, my first American thought was it's a gun or a knife or some kind of weapon, and I need to move away as soon as possible. So I kept looking at him the whole ride, and then he takes it out, and it was a beer can. He was sipping it and hiding it during the tram ride. That's what happens in Poland. Not guns, not knives. And I started crying and laughing at the same time because that's when I realized, wow, that's messed up.
I duetted this TikTok about a year ago, and I still stand by the fact that, like, we're significantly dumber in the States. School's a lot different here, but they learn so much more about life and things around us than we ever did. But another thing that I've noticed is people are so dependent in the States, especially, like, parents, I think, are more dependent and like feel the need to be in their child's lives more. Here, I'm sure they're great parents. I mean, 90% of the kids are super good, but like fourth graders are getting on the tram in the morning. Their parents are kissing them bye, saying peace out. Not the school bus, the tram.
Yeah, fool. If we had public transportation all around the city, of course we're going to be hopping on it. You think kids in New York are getting their handheld all the way to school? No. All these kids in New York are doing the same thing. Hopping on a bus, public transportation. Like, come on, man. In the UK, they do that. It's a normal thing. They wait for the bus. They can walk. Like, bro, when you live in a vicinity or a trajectory of everything's in the same radius, you're going to get off your ass and you're going to walk. So, what is you talking about?
And you know what? At night, they get back on the tram and they figure out their way home. Like, the parents are not as, like, involved in the kids' lives, and they're so independent. But even, like, at home in the States, even me, who's almost 20 years old, like, I'm still dependent on my mom.
Bro, you probably live in Idaho.
So I moved to Sweden. And when I got here, I wasn't feeling too well, so I went to the doctor, and the doctor recommended that I get an EKG, an electrocardiogram. Instead of worrying about my health, my first reaction was, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can get one of those.
You can't pay for it.
Able to afford it. And this
fucking
sweet
hell.
little man,
Y'all gotta come up with
sweet,
different
amazing
subject matter at this point in time, man. Some sweet little man told you it's free. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I mean, the prior point wasn't that well of a point. Like, in Europe and places like this, it's natural for kids to be self-sufficient because they can just walk places. They get on buses. They get on a tram, the train, whatever you want to call it. It's just the nature of the cities they live in. Very city-like living, bro. So, yeah, kids, that's why kids from New York grow up, like they like to say, them kids grow up faster because they're outside every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not where you live in Texas and you got to drive X amount of miles to get to school. So, of course, your parents got to drop you off until you get your license. Like, that's a no-brainer. Duh. Man, that's the first time you realize America really messed you up. Part 6, man. Let me know y'all thoughts on that in the comment section below. Peace, love, prosperity. God bless. We'll see y'all in the next one. We out.